Okay, well, at the same time, I don't know what the fuck Ashitiro had me sign, and I'm not
That's
entirely
true.
clear on what's going to happen to me if I do break that word, so...
Okay. I'm just trying to get a sense of where Khalil's head is at. So when this conflict does come up later in the campaign, I can present it more realistically for you.
that line has to be towed very carefully, is what Khalil is thinking.
So Khalil is like afraid of what If might do if he crosses him.
Yeah.
Okay, not a problem. And Grigori says, if not this dragon god, perhaps another, or a third. It's like there are many dragons in the world, and many hordes to be plundered. But I think my price is fair. Do we have an accord?
Do you have any pull with your blacksmith? He's been difficult to deal with so far.
And he gives you a very... like, he narrows his eyes a little bit when he looks at you. And he smiles a little. And he nods. He says he will do what I tell him.
That seems agreeable to me.
And he holds his hands out, open. He takes a step back, regarding all three of you. And as he does, the ropes binding your hands and feet fall away. And again, he bows graciously. And he says, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. And the room blinks away. Zook.
Yeah.
Just before morning, the door opens. And the drow woman limps out. And you see evidence that she's been in a very painful fight. She's holding her knee as she limps out, as though she's having great difficulty putting her weight on it. And after the door closes behind her, she kind of tumbles forward a little bit and catches herself on the banister. The top of the banister leading the stairs leading down to the road. And she just kneels there for a moment. Looks like she's trying to catch her breath. At her side, where you saw before, where she had a short sword hanging from her waist, you see the scabbard is still there, but the sword is gone. And you see where she suffered wounds for a moment. And she sits down at the top of the stairs, kind of catching her breath and holding her head, and nursing this wound on her leg.
While she is still on the stoop, Zook will emerge from his hiding place. He will swiftly but not aggressively cross over to where she's at and speak to her. Have a rough evening, Madam Drow?
And what language do you say that in?
Elvish, actually.
Okay.
Bad choice.
Yeah, I know, but Zook doesn't know that.
And as soon as you make a sound, she snaps her head up, and with her left hand, she's holding her leg in her right hand, she reaches into her cloak, and she pulls out a dagger and holds it out at you. And she speaks something in what sounds to your ears like a dialect of Elvish, but you don't understand the words.
Zook holds up one hand to show he's unarmed, and with the other hand pulls his cloak open just enough so she can see his insignia.
And when she sees the insignia, she relaxes her arm and pulls the dagger back. She doesn't put it back into its sheath, but she's retracted her arm so she's no longer pointing it at you.
Zook will ask her, in common, do you speak common?
And after a few moments, she nods, and her response is yes, a little.
And Zook will say, I apologize for startling you, but I saw your, I saw your mark and felt that I should make contact with you.
And at the mention of her mark, she reaches up and touches the tattoo on the back of her neck. And when she feels her neck for a minute, she flourishes her hair so it falls down over her shoulder and you can no longer see it. She asks who sent you.
And he responds, no one for you particularly. I'm here on outside business, though I do maybe have some business, some guild business as well.
She says she'd rather not share her prize if it's all the same.
Zook holds up both hands, kind of grins and says, I'm not interested in your prize. I was hoping maybe we could help each other with our presumably separate quests.
Roll a persuasion check.
I'm not great
Never
at
mind,
those.
don't roll shit.
All your NPCs just going to roll ones tonight?
I keep throwing ones. It's redonkulous.
Yeah, it's like as soon as we get into combat, Brick Road's like, oh, there goes the 20s. Oh, crit.
I couldn't believe how many crits I didn't throw last week when I had monsters that had 7 attacks in a round. Really? No fucking 20s? I think I got 1 out of the whole battle.
Time to buy new dice.
You say that you're there to offer aid. You're there to see if she needs any help. And she thinks. She waits for a long moment. And then very shakily, she drops the dagger. Reaches down to her right arm, which has been on her knee this whole time, and rolls up the sleeve. And you can see a huge wound on her forearm. Where it looks like something very rancid took a huge chunk of flesh out of the arm. And you can see where the flesh, the skin around it, like the blood is blackening, the meat is starting to fester. She says, I need to take care of this, and quickly.
Based on what I know, that's a potion ain't going to cure that. That's a curse or poison of some sort, correct?
Roll Arcana, Nature, or Religion. I'll let you pick.
I am decent at nature, so let's do that. That'll be an 8 nature.
It looks like she was bitten by something awful.
Zook will say, I have a fairly powerful cleric with me, if you would be willing to have him take a look at it.
And you look at her, and it looks like she's mulling over her options for a moment, and she rolls her sleeve back down over her arm, reaches behind her cloak into her belt pouch. She takes out a handful of coins. She asks, how much?
Zook says payment won't be necessary if we can help each other out, as I suspect we may be able to.
Roll another persuasion check. That time you actually do have to roll.
Okay. Oh, hey! That'll be a 20.
When you mention that payment's not necessary, you see for a moment she doesn't believe you. What are the next words out of your mouth?
Do I see that she doesn't believe me? Like
You can see, like, when you tell her payment's not going to be necessary, she gets this look on her face like, why? What's his angle? So what's the next thing that you say?
When he sees that she's skeptical that payments won't be necessary, he says, what I'm after will more than likely be more than whatever coin you have on you.
Puts the belt pouch back. Stands up. She nods. Says, take me to him.
Okay. Follow me, and I'll lead her back towards the inn where they were staying.
Okay. Eldove. You and Orphan wake up the next morning, and you had a wonderful night's rest.
Orphan yawns and stretches. Morning, Khalil.
Khalil gets out of bed like a freaking freight train, like, oh god, like, really? I have to deal with this shit again today.
Ready to get up and go muscle a blacksmith?
Might want to dial back the eagerness there, Orphan. We got some stuff to talk about. I'll look above us at the up in the direction where Tarin and Eldove's room is.
Okay.
Then
Eldove is making himself breakfast.
Tarin wants coffee. Do they have coffee here?
Sure. Black coffee. 2 coppers.
Leave the can. Or the pitcher.
8 coppers.
Khalil helps himself to that pitcher.
Am I able to change my spells?
Oh yeah, you all got the benefit
Okay.
of the long rest. You don't have any exhaustion. You're able to swap out your spells. Whatever
That was
you
the
need to do.
communication dream, not the offensive dream.
All right. Cool.
No, nobody took any psychic damage. It
Actually,
wasn't
yeah, I have a
nightmarish.
question.
Yeah,
Out of character. What were they rolling for?
they're rolling to see if. I'm not going to tell you that.
Okay. Because I was
Yeah,
curious. I'm like, is this dream? And I looked up dream, and it doesn't require.
No, it was not. It
roll.
was not the dream spell.
Okay.
It was not.
Rick, can I interject real quick?
Sure.
Because I don't want something to go by and then you say, no, that didn't happen because I didn't say it before. Along the way, Zook will attempt to make small talk. He doesn't know. I mean, he'll just ask, like, if she'll give her name and any of that kind of stuff. So, for what it's worth.
She does, and I looked up some bullshit drow names on Fantasy Name Generator.
And they have like Z's and X's and shit in them.
Zizzy Evilton, I think is her name.
This is evil.
This is a very difficult to pronounce name.
Oh, God, just paste it in the mumble chat.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to go with Eklofnia. That's what I'm going to go with. Eklofnia. I'll type it in the chat here.
That's not a real drow name. There's no Z's or X's.
That's what I'm going to go with. I'll paste it in the stream chat too, so they can see how bullshit this name is.
Eklofnia.
It's a pretty good name.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoy it.
What generator was this?
I went to Fantasy Name Generator, and they have just for drow names, and I looked for female drow names, and it came up.
All right.
But she's very reluctant to talk about what she's doing here. When you start pressing a little bit, she reminds you that you said you didn't have any interest in her prize. And that she's just she just wants to make contact with your priests. Right now. She's very worried about this wound. I'm going to take 1 minute so I can adjust my AC, because it is boiling in here. When we come back, what we're going to do is everybody's taking breakfast down in the common, or up in the common room.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eldove and Orphan are having an annoyingly chipper conversation.
Tarin has had 3 cups of coffee at this point.
So when we come back, we'll start it with Zook and Eklofnia walking into the room, and we'll pick it up from there.
Grab my
Sorry,
towel,
who? Did you ever finish Untold, Nick?
No. I started 4.
I'm on floor 10 again.
I'm gonna have to have somebody up to fix my AC this week. I think. I don't think it's blowing. It's 73 degrees in here, which means it's like 84 degrees in my game room.
It's blowing.
All right, so
Okay.
you all sit down to breakfast. Tarin and Arik are throwing coffee back. Everybody who's taking a meal, it's a silver piece for ham and eggs. 2 coppers for each cup of coffee you consume. Water's
What's
on
the
the house.
conversion rate from silver to gold?
10. It's
Yeah,
on my drink.
it's 10-10-10.
I'll pay for it. I've got that magic coin that I haven't used in a long enough time.
Ah, there you go.
You
Yeah,
know,
magic-
Khalil's
take care of all of
rocking the same thing with his.
And eventually, yeah, Zook does come into the tavern, into the inn, and right behind him, following him in, is this injured drow woman. She doesn't look totally out of place. You've seen a few drow in town. Most of the residents are human, but the elves you have seen have been dark elves.
Raise an eyebrow at, the two of them walking in together.
Not like holding hands or anything.
No,
Well,
not
still.
holding hands.
Arik sizes up the situation immediately and sighs.
Yep,
I'm going to be worried when Arik doesn't sigh at something.
Eric goes into Tina mode now.
And you see the look on the drow girl's face when she enters. She immediately recognizes who Zook meant when he said the priests. Zook, the floor is yours.
I mean, the first thing I do is I walk over to Arik and I say, Arik, my man, I need you to patch up this woman for me, if you don't mind.
I just give a flat stare at Zook and say, and what have you done for Osprey today?
Zook just looks at him and narrows his eyes a little bit and says, potentially made an important contact for our mission in this place.
Haven't we
What
learned our
language?
lesson when it comes to healing drow?
What language are you two conversing in? Common?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be common.
Okay.
And then Zook will say, please.
Arik lets out another sigh and says, "All right. Upstairs. We won't do this in the common room.
Downstairs.
There's no upstairs. There's downstairs.
There is an upstairs, but you guys don't know what's up there.
All right, then downstairs. I don't want to do it in public. That's
Okay.
all.
You need to get the prayer wheel out. It's a whole thing.
So, Zook, do you go with him?
Yeah. If they don't tell me not to, I'll go with them.
And as the woman follows the two of them back down, you see she eyes everybody else at the table very warily. Arik, you take Zook and Iklafnia down to your room.
Khalil
Yep.
raises an eyebrow. Didn't see that last night.
Well, I mean, you saw the woman before because you were watching Zook Vision as she. Oh, no, you didn't.
No, I didn't see that.
You didn't. That's right. You didn't turn on until he was already at the house. You were watching through Tarin Vision while he was doing the actual tailing. Yes, I know. You didn't see her before. So
Can I roll medicine to figure out what's going on with this wound and to stabilize it and all that good stuff?
First, I want you to throw Arcana, Nature, or Religion. You can pick.
They're all zeros, so religion it is.
Take your 0.
No Arcana and no religion?
Nope.
Damn.
What are you trained in?
10.
Sailing in sea
Medicine.
shanties.
10.
Looking at the wound, she's been bitten by some form of undead. Something took a big chunk of her arm off.
Ooh. Okay. Well, first things first, I will cast Cure Wounds on her.
Okay. And at what level?
I'll be generous and make it level 2.
That's generous. Okay.
Yep.
That's about as much as he heals me for when I've taken 60 points of damage.
It's 2d8 plus my spell mod. It's fine.
Okay. How many hit points should I give her back?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
9 plus 14.
Okay. And a lot of the wounds that she sustained over her body, you see, they close up, stitch back together, but the wound on her arm continues to be blackened. It continues to ooze. And she looks very taken aback at the sudden smell of fish in the air. But no, whatever taken hold in her wound is still there.
Okay. Because I have it prepared. I'm there it is. Oh. Charmed, Petrified, Curse.
What spell are you looking at?
Greater Restoration. Charmed, Petrified, Curse. Any reduction of one target's ability score is one effect reducing the target's hit point maximum. Well, let's try Lesser Restoration first, then.
Okay. So you're going to apply lesser restoration to the wound?
Yeah.
And again, you call on the power of Osprey to heal this. For some reason, Arik just gets off on healing drow. Like, he keeps doing it over and over.
He loves it. He loves
the
it.
dark elves.
You figure when you go for the prince, bring the prince back from the dead. This is really.
So I'm an expert at healing drow.
He will mention a casual side comment of, I brought a drow prince back from the dead, so This isn't as absurd as you think.
Just
you-
finds a way to drop that in the conversation.
Cast the lesser restoration spell. You see whatever substance was causing the wound to fester and be unable to heal is balmed out of it. The flesh turns pink, or not. Well, I guess the inside of the flesh would be like a reddish pink. Her outside is very dark gray. Very weird juxtaposition. And as you're casting, you're like, you know what? I want to stop healing drow. Like, I just don't want to do this. But no, at this point, the wound, the festering and diseased elements are sapped out of it, and you're able to bind her arm up. And you see she balls her fists together a little bit, testing the strength of her muscles. And after she's bound, she says, "It is known, Damynas is the city of death. I was afraid to show this wound to anyone else, that they would count me among their number. So I was afraid I would become a ghoul."
Well, we wouldn't want that now, would we?
She shakes her head and looks back at Zook and says, 1,000 times thank you.
Before
and
Zook,
Zook will... Oh, go ahead.
before Zook leaves with her, I grab Zook's arm and be like, "I'm not kidding about the Osprey thing, by the way."
Zook was actually going to thank Arik and kind of indicate that he wants the room alone with her for a minute,
Well,
if he doesn't mind.
It only takes Zook a minute.
whoa, this just went a very different direction. Well, the
That's
woman
not
stands
quite what I
up and makes to leave after the wound is bound, after she's given her gratitude.
Zook will ask, "Would you be comfortable speaking in here?"
And she looks back down and says, "Speak of what?"
Arik lets out a sigh. "I'll make my leave," in a very exaggerated gesture as he heads out the door.
And Zook will say, "Like I said, I'm not particularly interested in your business here. As far as I'm not trying to hoard in on your score or whatever you've got going on, but I do want to ask if you have any information that might be able to help us with what we're doing."
She nods and says that she does. She supposes she owes you.
Oh shit! I haven't actually spoken to them about all their stuff they were doing today. Zook will say, first of all, briefly, my guild business in town was I was told to keep an eye out for two members of the guild who have gone missing, by the name of Jorun and Dadon. Do those names mean anything to you?
You instantly see the recognition on her face when you mention the names. And she
Zook will...
very slowly sits back down on Eric's bed. And she's looking at the floor. She says, "I thought you said you had no interest in my prize."
And Zook will look at her with as a genuine surprise as he has, because he had no idea. He's and say, "I honestly didn't know that's what business you were having here. I was merely asked to keep an eye out for them as I was coming here on other business."
She says, "Well, I know they're both dead. I know they're both raised as zombies, and I know they're both holed up somewhere in the Tomb District."
Is that what you were doing last night? Trying to give them true rest?
She shakes her head. She says, "I was trying to be less foolhardy than they were.
Were you?
Yes, I was seeking the treasure they came here to find."
I was merely asked to find out. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Brick Road. I was merely asked to find out about them. Correct? That's all I had written down was I was looking for the two missing members of the guild.
Yeah, all you know is that they came here on some sort of treasure hunt, and that's the last anybody heard of them. All
But
you
he
had
didn't
was their
say
names.
specific. But he didn't tell me specifically find what they were looking for or anything. He just said,
No, he was just giving you a lead, because when you were talking to him, you just asked him for information, and that's just the first thing that came to his head was, the city of Damynas. We had a couple guys go in there to look for something once.
Okay.
Nobody ever heard of them again.
"Cool." So I'm not lying when I say I wasn't told to get their treasure. It was just a stray piece of information I was given that may prove to be helpful.
She asked,
Is
was
it-
it helpful?
Not directly, but like I said, if there's any way we could help each other out, maybe indirectly. And I tell her, my primary reason for being in town is that we were trying to enter into some sort of talks with the blacksmith, Amte, and ask if she knew.
Doesn't look
Okay.
like she recognizes the name. Like she's clearly not a local. Not only does she not recognize the name, but she also see when she's talking about the undead that she faced, just fear and then just incredible relief that she wasn't going to be counted among their number, that she wasn't herself going to be turned into a ghoul.
Mm-hmm.
Like she doesn't want to be in Damynas 1 second longer than she needs to be.
Okay. And then I just ask her, just as a point of order, if she also has heard anything about, if she's managed to dig up anything about Grigori.
The name Grigori she has heard, because Grigori is known through all the lands as the ruler of the public face of Damynas. But she doesn't know anything that the locals of Damynas don't know a lot about Grigori. He never comes out of his manor. There's never any lights. He never receives visitors. Any direct interest he takes in keeping his area of Damynas upkept and secure from threats is taken through back channels. He has underlings and henchmen that go out and do his bidding for him. So there's a lot of myth and a lot of rumor and a lot of hearsay surrounding Grigori. But it doesn't seem that it's common knowledge that he's a vampire. And in fact, she doesn't mention it, that he's a vampire.
Okay, I was going to say, Zook didn't actually mention it either. He just was asking about the name mostly and to see if she had any information they didn't have. And Zook will just kind of shrug and say, that's honestly what I was looking for primarily when I saw you. I know that it was to see if you had any information on our targets. Like I said, I'm not trying to get in on your treasure. I'm happy I could help you out, because God knows I wouldn't want you to turn into a ghoul.
At this point, she says, well, I'm considering now cutting my losses. It's clear I'm not going to get close to it. I underestimated the sort of opposition I'd be up against.
If you don't mind me asking, if you are cutting your losses on it, what is the treasure you were seeking? Was it merely treasure, or was it merely riches, or was it something more interesting?
She tells you fragments of a story, of a legend. And she mentions where the mountains where she's from, somewhere in the Shadowfell, doesn't really matter. But it's a legend from her mountain where a great drow warrior was called to Damynas as an emissary to establish some form of relation between who was then the ruler of Damynas and the king of the drow, lord of that particular drow kingdom. And the warrior came into Damynas but was betrayed, was killed. They wanted to use his body to create a death knight to stand as the royal guard of the ruler of Damynas. And then over the centuries, parts of the armaments that warrior carried with him to Damynas were recovered. But one thing that's never been recovered is a ruby-encrusted sword. And so this sword has passed into legend and is now known amongst that drow kingdom as the treasure of Damynas. And she confirms to you that that's what Jorian and Daedon were coming to find. They were sand elves, though. They traveled from Romneus to try to find it. And then she caught wind of it here because a couple of sand elves trekking through the Shadowfell creates attention. And then she was able to go in and confirm that they were killed and turned into zombies. When she describes the amount of undead creatures that stood between her and the target, it's unbelievable to you. You all fought a couple of skeletons and zombies and ghouls coming up out of graveyards and whatnot, passing up along the river, but the opposition is a wall. There's no way through it from what she's describing.
ask her, do these zombies, are they serving someone, or is this merely just an army of zombies that are milling about? I don't really know how do zombies serve someone in around here, or is that not really how it works?
She says, in Damynas, the mindless dead in the Tomb District, it is known their leader is a ghost of my kind, named Diana. But what sort of service she asks of the mindless dead is not known.
In that place that you came through last night, that door actually leads to the Tomb District?
She asks if you have designs of going and trying to recover this sword now that she's giving up on it.
Not as such at this moment, but it's good to have the information in case I have a reason to at a later point. Or more importantly, a reason to go. I'm thinking more some other reason to have to go into the Tomb District. Who knows where my business in this town will take me.
She rubs the gauze on her arm, her bound wound, for a moment. And you see that she's deep in thought, like she's considering on how much she needs to entrust you. But at length, she says, "Fetch me parchment and I will draw you the path."
Okay, fair enough. And Zook will go to the nearest bag. I assume somebody has some parchment nearby, and gives her what she wants.
She lays out for you the blueprint that she was following. How to get into the Tomb District through a secret door in the basement level of that old house. Once in the Tomb District, where to go, where the sword is supposedly kept, in one of the many cemeteries. Rather detailed instructions. She has instructions on how to bypass secret doors, what sorts of traps to look out for, how to disarm them. But she tells you that there is an uncountable number of the mindless dead that will stand in your way, and that it's not possible to reach. And then she stands up to make her leave again. She asks if they're square.
Zook says yes, but just one last thing. This ruby sword, is it merely valuable, or is it also magical?
She says she doesn't know, but if you were able to find it, it's yours to do with as you will.
Okay. And I thank her heartily and wish her well, and ask her if she's leaving town tonight immediately.
She absolutely is, yes. She's going to buy a replacement for the sword that she lost, and then she's gone.
Okay. I'm adding a map of Damynas Tomb District to my equipment for now.
Okay. What is everybody else doing today? What are daytime actions? You're not set to actually hang out with Omte again until later this afternoon.
Let's see.
Eldove spends the next 20 minutes during breakfast asking how the missionary work is going to Arik. Whether he wants us to just bring the hut around, leave him in the Drow Kingdom.
Arik pours himself another cup of coffee, pushes it in front of Tarin, and says, "Flask, please."
Jared pulls the flask off of his out of
You
his
know, I
cloak.
hear they like animal priests, so we might have to turn you into like a half dolphin. But that's fine,
Chops
right?
off the top of the cup and pushes it back in front of Arik.
Now, after a few minutes,
Thank
after
you,
Arik
Captain.
comes back up and starts to get his drink on, the drow woman walks through the room without meeting any of your gaze. She just crosses the room and exits. Then a minute after that, Zook walks up with a big goddamn grin on his face.
I'll look at Zook and just say, Grigore saw you out there last night.
And Zook will just sort of raise an eyebrow like, wait, how do you know what?
Well, first he'll tap his temple next to his silver eye. I knew that first. Second, I'll look at Tarin and Arik and be like, "We were visited last night."
Arik is staring into his cup of coffee.
So,
okay.
And then Khalil will start to explain just what the hell Grigore was on about.
Zook will go, and Zook will take it in and go, well, that makes sense. Unbeknownst to me, I apparently was near where he says I was. It was unintentional.
Well...
So any news from your guild?
Nothing particularly useful for us at this exact moment, though. If you guys want to go wading through zombies for a indescribably valuable ruby sword, potentially magical, who knows, sword of legend, we can do that at some point later.
Khalil just glares at Zook like, really, dude? We came here for one thing, and now you're like, hey, guess what else we can do?
Well, to be honest, and Zook will say, usually, my contacts are good for information, and she was, but it was not the information I was hoping for.
And Khalil just rolls his eyes, looks at Tarin, and you know, given our past experience with drow, I'm not surprised if this happened to be a
cursed sword.
Some kind of that she was not completely above the table with you.
But it would be an awesome cursed sword. You have to admit that.
To be fair,
don't tell me you're on about going to find this damn thing, are you?
Unfortunately, I think we have other priorities.
Thank you.
This wasn't exactly something that she was trying to pawn off on me. This was something she was after for herself and gave me the information very, very reluctantly, only after I saved her life via our lovely, lovely priest friend here.
Yeah, you mean Arik saved your life.
Arik takes a swig of his coffee.
Zook pats him on the back. He says, "You done good today."
Well, after this delightful conversation, assuming no one else has any other plans, Tarin is going to wander around the marketplace a bit.
We'll go with.
What the
Taking
hell?
the sights of the city.
If we're not doing anything particular today, Zook will meander through the marketplace with him as well.
This place seems inherently more magical than Kiska, so I might be able to find my staff here.
Orphan's gonna
what?
She's gonna go see what happens when she tries to enter the temple district.
Oh, beautiful.
Do you
You're
tell
gonna run
anyone
up
you're
the
going
wall?
to do that?
Now, there's no open air market as such. Like there is like the giant bazaar in Kiska. I always want to say Great Bazaar, but I can't say Great Bazaar because we're not in Planescape yet. But yeah, there's the area where you're in is crisscross with shops of all different kinds. So are you guys looking to buy anything in particular, or just browsing around?
I'm just looking for anything interesting.
Anything interesting? Define something. What would Tarin consider interesting at a shop in Transylvania?
Anything that holds the part of the inherent nature of the plane within itself.
Is there such thing as magical light armor, or are you only going to find that on plate?
I'm sure you can. There's definitely such thing as +1 any kind of armor.
Yeah, Zook is looking for, because he's just to have something in mind to look for. Zook is specifically looking at light armor to see if he can find anything.
You're not going to find a magic item in a store to buy.
Okay.
I will definitely say, as downtime action, you can spend time searching in Damynas the way you could in Kiska, but it would be more difficult because it's a much smaller town, and they don't have the guilds specifically geared towards that kind of antiquities market. I'm not going to say it's impossible. In fact, you might have avenues to explore here that would not be in Kiska, but it's not something you're going to do in a single day.
It's fair enough. In that case, he's just browsing.
Okay. Now, Tarin, you asked
So I
for...
was just looking at the just generally just weapon construction, just seeing how they make weapons out here. That'd be the thing Khalil is interested in.
So you're going to find like an armory?
Yeah. Other than what's his faces.
And the weapons you find are of decent make. like I said, you're not going to find anything magical. Probably nothing that's like a masterwork level weapon, but serviceable enough. The style is quite different than what you're used to in Kiska, because it's just such a different culture here. Also, it's distinct from the types of swords and weapons you saw made in, like, for example, in Dunfoss or Caer Tyrell. So it has its own flair to it. Definitely good steel. You could put a hurt on somebody with it.
Any weird materials?
Roll an Arcana check.
9. I'm not super great at Arcana.
9. Not to your eye. You don't notice anything. Tarin, you asked for... You're looking for an item that holds, like, the nature of this plane.
Yeah.
To what end? Like, are you looking for to tune your...
Do I need an end to that? That just seems like the sort of thing Tarin would want.
Okay. You find an antiquities and curiosities shop that has very... looking at the door, it has a wooden sign hanging over the front window saying that the shop is only open by chance. That right now it's closed and the door is locked, which to you would be strange, first of all, because all the other stores are open. The district is bustling with activity. But you've noticed curious and eccentric stores like this before. Antique shops run more as a hobby than as an actual business. And it just says open by chance, currently closed. But looking in through the windows, at the back of the shelves in the shop, you see all manner of very strange things. I don't know if you were watching on Friday when I was playing Monkey Island and went into the voodoo lady's house and saw all the weird-ass shit she had in there. Something similar. We're talking candle holders made out of skulls, what looks to be a bundle of stuffed, like, taxidermied bats dangled from the ceiling in a small net. Just weird oddities cover these shelves, and you look at them and you think, yep, that's the Shadowfell. Like, this is the souvenir shop.
We found Spencer's gifts.
Right.
Spencer's
So yeah,
gifts.
looking in there, you see things piquing your interest up on the shelves, but the shop is not currently open.
Okay. That was it. Just wanted to look around.
Orphan, you were about to get into some trouble, weren't you?
Yeah.
So what exactly is Orphan doing?
So she's trying to figure out where the road to the Temple District is first.
And there is a road that leads directly up to a wall that looks like at one time it might have been a gate, but now is just a solid wall. And some of the locals confirmed that on the other side would be the Temple District. What sort of information do you try to obtain about the Temple District before going over? Or are you just confirming that it's there?
I'm going to ask them, how does one get inside?
The response to that, the first thing you would have to do would be to convert to the religion of Chemosh. You would have to swear fealty to the High Priest of Chemosh and agree to worship him as your god.
I'll say when they say Temple District, all temples to Chemosh.
Chemosh is the revered god in Damynas, yes.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
only his
she's less-
followers are allowed inside.
She's a little bit less interested after that. The idea of a temple district made her curious, but if it's all temples to the same god, that's less interesting.
No, and the people you speak to don't remember a time where there were other gods in Damynas either. You were familiar enough with Kiska, whereas the Kiskins, people living throughout Romneus, have an entire pantheon of gods, and each city has their own patron deity. That's not what's happening here. What's happening here is Chemosh and his followers have hold on Damynas. But yeah, you're able to find the wall, and the road leads directly up into the wall and ends abruptly there.
I'll feel around the wall a little bit.
And it just feels like stone.
Okay. That's gonna be. I'm not gonna go running up the wall or anything. If that's what you were
Damn.
expecting.
That's too bad. Nodal, are you disappointed?
Feels like a wall.
I'm surprised you didn't try and walk through it as if it weren't there. That's what Tarin would do.
Yeah, well, or if it's not Tarin.
Yeah. Most decidedly not.
So, what is the plan for going back to the forge?
I say Karen conjures up his demi-plane and we stash all of our combat gear in there for it.
Makes sense to me.
Okay. He said no armor too.
He did.
I'm just gonna put my ring in my pocket.
Okay.
It's a ring.
I mean, I'm going to dismiss my sword, but I can always resummon it, and I can always Dimension Door us out if things go bad.
Now,
Yeah.
to make sure that I have been ruling that spell focuses detect as magic items, even though they have no particular function in and of themselves. Your spell focus still will read as magic for purposes of detect magic.
Oh,
My
yeah?
whole
Yeah.
Is he going to even allow Orphan in there?
When he talked to them yesterday, he said to bring all of your companions.
I'm more magic than you are.
I'm more weapon than you are.
That's true.
I don't know that that's accurate either.
Like, I can't take off my weapons, and I can't take off my armor, because I don't wear either.
I just wanted to, for purposes of spell focus, if you remember back to Udok's village, all those little wands you found and all, they all detected as magic. So
That's true. You're more weapon than I am, but I'm more armor than you are. Because my scales literally count as armor.
Okay, well, Orphan is more horse.
I'm more quasi-horse.
So, knowing that, do you still stash your ring in your pocket?
No, I'll put it in the thing. I don't give a shit. I can still toss fire at him without it. I don't need it.
What about my holy symbol?
It does count as a spell focus. If your holy symbol is your spell focus, which I guess for you it would be, then yeah, it would detect as magic. Also, your staff of wait.
Come on, I put my ring away. You can put your
There was no need for that.
necklace.
There was no need for that whatsoever. But yeah, I'll throw my holy symbol in this demi-plane, sure.
What holy symbol do you have?
It's an amulet.
What does it look like?
There's an emblem of... I think we said there was a dolphin on it.
So you are a dolphin?
Ostrom has several icons, and the one we there was a dolphin and three
with
barracudas,
dolphin, yeah.
and we went with the dolphin.
Yeah, because Barracuda is way too aggressive.
I'll throw my ring in there.
You sound like a little mermaid, but
You need to have both the dolphin and the barracudas, and then we know when you're having a bad day because you're wearing the barracuda one.
Khalil clears the throat and just says, I want to know that the last time I went to any kind of meeting like this without my equipment, we got chased out of Udok's village.
I want it known that I wanted to just kill him, and you said that we could come back the next day and not bring any of our stuff. And that was a better plan.
At Eldove.
So
And
really,
Eric
Khalil,
agreed with
you have the
Eldove.
least means to talk.
Yeah, Tarin will take off his armor. He's just wearing his robes. His sword is dismissed, but no spell component pouch.
Yeah, no armor
So
for Eric. Great.
we're gonna go up into the forge, but we're going to honor the terms. Nobody's going in with weapons, armor, spell focuses.
Yeah.
Is anybody bringing any magic items? Are there any magic items that you guys did not put in the demiplane?
Well, Khalil has to bring one.
You don't have to. I mean. So Khalil's wearing his eye. What about the rest of you?
No, I took off my ring.
Okay.
I can pry it out.
I put it in there.
Might be a little late, but I can pry it out.
I don't own anything that's worth making a deal over it.
Okay.
No, Tarin's magic items are in there too, aside from, again, his sword, which is just dismissed.
Gotcha. So you roll it back into the forge, late afternoon, the appointed time, just going on into evening. And, again, the door to the forge is open. The room beyond is cold, dark, and empty.
This is your show, Khalil.
Walk on in.
Okay. And where do you go? First question, does anybody strike a light?
Not after last time.
Okay.
Tarin will stay next to Arik
no.
since he won't be able to
Orphan
see in the
doesn't.
darkness without magic.
An orphan, no light?
Nope, you can already see anyway.
So, Khalil, where are you leading these fools? I mean, your party.
He did say down below in the In the speakeasy room, right? That's the name that jumped out into my brain when he first mentioned it.
The speakeasy room. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he described a meeting room down in the offices below, where the slave owners from back in the day would meet with dignitaries from foreign kingdoms to finalize contracts and things.
And I'll lead him to that. Lead the party to that room.
And when you enter the room, sure enough, you see the room is lit with a single candle on a table. A relatively cramped space around the table. 7 chairs, and in the far end of one square table, not a round table, but already occupied is the disheveled man you saw yesterday. And there are 6 other chairs at this table with the candle on it.
Well, Khalil motions for everyone else to come in and sits down.
Tarin will take the seat closest to the dwarf. That I'm assuming Khalil will take the other seat closest to the dwarf.
Well, here, let's do this.
Dwarf.
Let's do. Yeah, he's not a dwarf. He's human. Let's do this
right.
then. We're gonna say this is our table.
Okay.
I'm going to. Whoop.
Where the hell is my mini?
So he's sitting at this end when you come in. The chairs are not like bolted to the floor. You can move the chair and sit wherever you want. Actually, the table would not be this big. I don't know what I was thinking.
That's a big table.
That is a
good for
big.
That
relative
is a pretty
What am I
big
doing?
table. It's a 20-foot table.
20 feet by 20 feet.
Yeah,
Well, it's fine for relative position. It doesn't have to be to scale.
yeah, but I did describe it as cramped, so there we go. That's probably more of what we're looking at here.
That's an ugly table.
It's an ugly plane of existence.
Coterminous,
The table
man, just
itself-
not
Khalil and Arik are fighting over that chair. No, I want to sit next to Eldove. No, I want to sit next to Eldove.
You can both sit next to Eldove.
Yay!
So Orphan and
Wonderful.
Tarin
Mm-hmm.
are sitting next to the blacksmith.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He nods at you as you each take your seat. I need to make a ruling on something. Give me 1 second. Everybody make a saving throw versus all 5... Never mind.
5 saving throws?
No, don't make anything.
I'll do it. You'll hear those dice.
Okay, yeah, nobody has to make anything. You're fine. In fact, I won't even roll initiative. I will, as a show of good faith. And after everybody comes in, he motions for Arik, who's sitting closest to the door, to close it.
Surprise the DM by rolling initiative. You get to
Alright,
take a
yeah.
surprise round.
I closed the door behind me.
And after Arik takes his seat again, he says, "So you're here to discuss a coup in the cult of Ith." He nods a little bit. He says, "I'm willing to hear what you have to say."
Current heart of Ith, and you know to be named Gendrid, is he has found some way to suppress the great dragon.
And when you mention this story about Gendrid suppressing Ith, you just see these looks on his face. Like, first of all, he understands what you're talking about. Like, you get right away. This is not new information to him. But you see looks of, like, hurt and betrayal as he nods in agreement with what you're saying, confirming the story.
And Khalil will talk about the agreements that the discussions that we've had with Ashatir regarding the same thing, and then lay it out that Ashatiru, his designs are to become the new heart of Ith.
And this news, again, this is not news to him. This is something that looks like he's already known.
Mm-hmm.
And he shakes his head a little bit and he says, "Is there no other way? Is there nothing else to be done? It must fall to Ashatiru."
Isn't that up to Ith once Ith is free? Isn't it the Grand Dragon's choice? It was his next heart.
He mulls the question over for a long time, and at the end of it, he gives a very non-committal answer, shaking his head, and says that there was a time I thought I knew its mind, but I was very much mistaken.
Then let's back up for a moment. Can you tell us anything about how Gendry took over?
And he relays the story that you already know, about how some low-level cultists found him washed up on the shore, how they brought him in, how he wormed his way up, how he demanded to be placed at the head of the cult, that he said this was Ith's wish and desire, and then Ith immediately confirmed it and gave him his blessing. The previous heart was just obliterated. Gendry was placed in his position, and then when any of the other ribs spoke out against it, they too found a quick death. He says, "I saw which way the wind was blowing and took my exit."
But if the heart comes under threat again, are you compelled to turn and protect the heart?
He reaches up to his dirty shirt that he's wearing and starts unbuttoning it. And after he gets about halfway open, he tears it partway open, revealing the left side of his chest, and you see some kind of black light underneath the skin. Something dark and horrible there. He says, "There is a compulsion, yes, but I made sure to come to a place where I will be protected from it." He says, "I serve a master now that will act as a shield."
So when you are called, then you won't need to come.
And he mulls it over for a long time, like he doesn't know exactly what's going to happen. But his answer is, no, of course not.
Insight checks all around.
No, it's very obvious. Like he's telling you that he's convinced himself that service to Grigore will shield him from that call if the time comes.
Well, speaking of Ashatiru, he didn't give us very good terms for this whole cult removal thing. What about if you were the heart?
Says, "That's not something I want."
Is there anyone you would prefer to be the heart, other than Ashatiru? Ravenhair, perhaps?
He says, "I want to be rid of it. So I want no part of it. Any of it. I never did."
Would it then? Orphan will ask. Then would it be a problem for you if Ashatiru became the heart? Would he be able to override Grigory's protection over you?
And again, he thinks about it for a long time. I can't be certain Ashatiru would release me. Seems more likely that he would have me dead, out of the way. Why did he send you here? Why did he tell you I would be an ally?
He didn't. He said we were given a list of the ribs and told that of them, among the ones that we had not yet talked to, you were the only one that we might be able to converse with and get on our side, or at least not against us through words. The rest we're going to have to slay beforehand.
Yes, we're expecting to have to kill the rest of the ribs. It's just you, Ashatiru, and Mariel, Ravenhair, who we have tentative alliances with so far.
If you were summoned and you were to fight on our side instead of theirs, do you think we could convince... Would that be sufficient if I were to convince Ashatiru to release you afterwards?
He asks if you hold that kind of sway with Ashatiru.
Right now, I'm not sure, but he's put a lot of trust and information into us, and quite frankly, I don't know. That's the best I can offer to try and help you.
We are offering him possibly the position of heart. It may be that your release could be part of the bargain. We'll see if we can talk to him about it.
He says, if I were to agree to this, if I were to be your ally, I would be a powerful ally indeed. He says that slavering dog that he calls Axe of Fire shakes his head. He says, not even a puppy. I could render him inert. He says, the Beholder, you would have to deal with. Muriel, I could talk her down. He says, if we make a deal, if I sign on to your little entourage of would-be heroes, I would be the most powerful ally you have in your pocket.
Okay, insight check that.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I
didn't know if you were
It's like
gonna
McClain
actually...
was like expecting, no, don't bother.
Aren't you used to people with dragon scales making huge claims?
I rolled a 1, so I think he's totally, like, the most powerful motherfucker in the world. That's actually a 9, though. I have pretty good insight.
Eric is stealing. He's looking at Khalil every so often, trying to judge what his take on all this is.
Khalil just seems to be gathering information at the moment. He's also trying to get a read on the guy. So Khalil would have his own insight check to make at a 19.
He's not lying. He's definitely convinced he's telling the truth. When he looks around and he sees that there's no immediate response, he starts to clarify. He starts describing some of the things he's made for the other ribs over the years. He describes the various weapons that Axe of Fire, the Death Knight, would wield using into battle.
Is it an axe?
One of them is. There's
Is it a fire?
an axe, a bow, and a spear. But into all of these things, he kind of puffs up his chest a little bit as he speaks. He's such a skilled enchanter, he says that he was able to work fail-safe magics into each of these items, undetectable by the barbarian. And he says that with just with spittle on his lips. He has no respect for this dwarf at all.
Khalil sits forward a little bit.
He says, all I must do is speak the word in his presence, and his weapons will be useless to him. Without his weapons, he is nothing.
Then, shall we speak to Ashatira on your behalf? Can we make that a condition of our deal? If we can negotiate your certain release, then you'll stand with us?
He says, I want more than that. So
Orphan nods.
there are treasures in Ith's hoard, things that I covet.
Here we go.
The first is a great axe. This I would need to render Axe of Fire inert. I would need to cast an enchantment on it, that when the time comes, the properties would leave his blade and enter mine. But it must be a great axe, formed of a single slab of cold iron. I know of such an axe, part of its hoard. He shakes his head. He tells you it's not magical, it's not particularly valuable. And if you were able to make a replica, that would also suffice.
Yeah, I was about to say. Does it have to be that specific great axe, or can it be a great axe?
No, a cold iron great axe, made from one piece of metal. And he tells you he knows of such a thing currently guarded by Kethik the Beholder, as part of its hoard.
Yep.
Well, our deal with Ashatira did say that as long as we're using it in that regard, we have access to all the things that are in that hoard. As long as once we defeat the Beholder, that's going to have to be a thing that has to happen first. But
This is the other thing I'll need. There is an egg. Looks over at Eldove. A dragon's egg. Red and black. Petrified. It would look like a stone to anyone else's eyes. I don't remember the guy's name. Muriel's lover, the one that was killed. Does anybody have that in notes handy?
I do not.
I should.
Mariel's.
Starts with a Y.
Oh. Hmm.
No, I don't have it.
Eclofnia.
But he mentions the previous Rib of Ith, the one that Muriel she
Replaced?
took over his office after he stood against Gendred and was destroyed. You already knew that he was Muriel's lover, but he says that the two of them were undergoing research. And he says that word kind of painfully. But he said that they were looking to reintroduce the lost race of half-dragons into Trennis. They were doing this on Ith's behalf. I was the first leg of their research. And with that egg in my possession, I could sway Muriel away from the cult as well.
Who has the egg now?
And he shakes his head. Kethik the Beholder. It's part of the Horde.
I see.
He looks back at Eldove. And says, and as long as we're negotiating terms, I wouldn't mind a taste of Goldilocks over there.
Elder responds, I'm afraid I'm a little bit more than you can handle.
He leans forward on the table. Says, I'm inclined to take that as a challenge.
Sec, let me just go over my spell list.
Gentlemen, please, please.
Yeah, what the hell? Eldove cast telekinesis.
And it doesn't work. Does not come out. As soon as you go to cast the spell, it fizzles immediately. You are sitting in the range of an anti-magic shell.
Yeah.
Oh, is he being such a pain in the ass about bringing a ring? Jesus Christ.
So when I
Some
see
people
Eldove-
just have no class.
But when he sees you go to cast the spell, he chuckles, not unkindly, just like he thinks it's adorable.
That's adorable.
Adorbs.
Again, Khalil's like, gentlemen, please, please. Don't need to get uncivilized here.
He says, I'm inclined to help you. If you can negotiate my release and give me the items that I need. He says, I'm sure Lord Albezku asked for something as well.
He did.
Then you should get it for him. You'll have a greater friend in Grigori than you will have with any cultist in the cult of Ith.
And Orphan looks surprised and said, are you saying a Grigori would fight with us?
He says, I'm just saying you don't want to make an enemy of him.
Khalil rubs his chin and nods.
Well, I mean, that works for me. I have absolutely no problem relinquishing those items. I'll see
That we
what I can
don't
do about.
own.
I'll see what I can do about talking to Ashatiru. I would hope that that he will see that it's in his best interests.
Okay. And Omte nods. You see his demeanor kind of loosen up a little bit, where up to now he's always been on edge and very guarded. It seems now he's reached a point where he's a little more comfortable around all of you. You don't see that just fear that you're going to destroy him anymore.
It's coming out of his shell.
Well, I don't think we want him coming out of his shell, considering what he said to you, Eldove.
Listen, at the beginning of the session, Eldove said he was going to put a sack into a sack.
That zombie probably didn't spell as bad as this guy.
He does have kind of a hobo scent about him, yes. He's kind of disgusting.
Yeah, but you
But
can
you have
prestidigitation.
prestidigitation,
Yeah,
so-
that's not an issue.
I can't cast magic.
So, if you don't mind me asking, What sort of great works are you working on here in comparison to the items you've created for Ith over the years?
He says, I do mind you asking, as a matter of fact.
Fair enough. I'm just curious.
Then he looks around the table. He says, well then, is there anything else? Goldilocks?
Eldove just raises his eyebrows. I don't have anything to add.
We'll send word.
And he tells you he'll be here.
Okay.
Out of character for a second, is Tarin able to cast Ascending here into the Shadowfell?
Tarin
It
can
works
cast
in the
Ascending
same
across the Shadowfell,
plane.
but not from the Prime Material to the Shadowfell, and not vice versa.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I've
You'd
got
have
plane
to-
shift, so
You'd
it's
have
not
to
even a big
focus
deal.
it into the Shadowfell for a minute, just say boop, and then wait for a response, and then hit back.
Now, that technically brings us to the end of what I wanted to do here in Damynas. I have way more Damynas notes in case anybody else wants to spend the rest of the session here. But I did say last week that we were going to end this session with a considerable amount of downtime. Because I know there's a lot of stuff you guys want to do. But I wanted to get this out of the way first.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
that's cool.
That's good.
So,
Khalil has no other business to staying here in Dominos. He finds the whole place unsettling anyway.
let's take a break then for dinner. Everybody can make a sandwich, order their Chinese, whatever you got to do.
Okay.
Oh, I want to order Chinese now. Oh, you're the worst.
Jeez.
Because it's going to take like 45 minutes, so we'll already be done with dinner break by the time it gets here.
Yeah. Anyway.
So,
When do we meet?
my question is, before we break, my first question is, do we want to do a short downtime, like over the course of the next couple days, if you guys want to poke around Damynas some more? Or do we want to do long downtime stretching out into weeks and months?
I wouldn't
I
mind
know
weeks
business.
and months.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
everyone has stuff they want to accomplish.
Gotcha. What is, as far as the campaign is concerned, like, as far as the adventure is concerned, what is your guys' next goal?
I think everything, all signs point to the treasure hoard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all
it-
signs
well,
point
well,
to...
Immediately, we have to talk to Ashitiru about
Right.
that.
That's
Yeah.
immediate.
But yeah, after that, I think the next big step is probably the polder.
Which I imagine we're gonna like crash a hut into.
Now, Kethik, Kethik
We're gonna get the
resides
balloon
on,
ending.
Kethik resides on the same mountain stronghold, ruins, etc. that Ith and Gendrid occupy. Just Kethik is on the Prime Material. Gendrid and Ith are in the Shadowfell. And you all had learned there was a shadow crossing, I think I said at the base of the mountain.
Yep, you choose before you go up it. Yep.
Right. Okay, so the next actual on-task goal then is to find that mountain. Let me get the world map back out here. 1 second. So I can. Oh my God! I went back to.
You went back to Sonic?
I did. So we're gonna not have Sonic out. That would be bad.
I don't have Sonic.
Yeah,
I
Name
just
is
need
Sonic.
You should leave Sonic out for the dinner break, so you know where to edit.
Well, we have Elizabeth.
This particular mountain would be like up in this region somewhere, up
Okay.
along this border.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna take a dinner break. We'll reconvene at 8:30. Everybody, stuff your face with whatever is appropriate. I'm gonna put Elizabeth on screen here.